恭请大德僧听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们。如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无生。Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suceto ye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good-knowing advisors, welcome back to this week's exploration of Dharma principles using the Sutra of the Medicine Master Buddha as our foundation. Let's recite Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times before we begin. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha 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 Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life. Medicine Master Buddha, Medicine Master does come one. 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 Okay, let me get to this slide. What's happening is that we are commemorating the Shufu's, the anniversary of Shufu's entering Nirvana. So for some of you who have not participated in something like that before, what happens is people gather in the Buddha Hall. We have many volunteers who cook many wonderful dishes. as an offering for Shufu. And it's not just food. They also, they are, how you say, I wouldn't call it trinkets. Sometimes people put precious stones and other things as well. And they arrange it on the plate in a very attractive manner. Yeah. So at I think right now that's or maybe slightly later. The ceremony has definitely begun at 9 a.m. It's 9:07 right now, and they'll continue until mealtime. Okay, so for those of us who are here, what are we going to do today? We're going to continue with our exploration of the God realm, and I think today we have enough time. We can move to the actual heavens, the first heaven that is physically closest to us, and not just physically closest to us, but in terms of ability to be reborn. It's fairly easy. Can't say fairly easy, but it's not difficult. Yeah, it's not difficult to be reborn in the heavens, and we'll see. So today, if you look at your screen, 6 to 11, that's what we'll be covering. Once we are done with covering the rest of our stories of the Bhumi Devas or the earth-based Devas, then we'll go to the heaven of the four kings. Or rather, we will have a quick overview from number 6 to 11, the six heavens of the desire realm, just a very quick overview from the Shurangama Sutra, and then we will go into what makes up the heaven of the four kings. Okay. Right now, before we do that, does anyone have any questions from last week or anything in general to bring up? If not, you can type it into the chat box. Okay. So what we're going to do is there's a sutra I wanted to share with you from yesterday. Hold on, just let me check my notes before we go there. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's continue. So this sutra is called the Samiti Sutra, and the reason I'm sharing that, yes, Ron, you have a question?
No, I don't at this
Okay.
time. Thank you, Busher. Sorry, I got my.
Okay, all right. So this sutra, the reason why I'm sharing it is because gods in the whether they are earth, earth, earth-based gods or gods in the heavenly realms are just like humans, most of them, which means that their understanding of Dharma, if they do have understanding of Dharma, not all of them have a good understanding, although they are gods. And they have, for example, say like spiritual abilities, like they can fly and they can transform themselves and they have very little suffering. But it doesn't mean that they have an automatic understanding of the Dharma. Okay, so let's start about this sutra. And this sutra is all about an earth deva who's receiving teachings from the Buddha. And it's a fairly unusual sutra because usually when the Buddha teaches to the capacity of the deva, but not so for this sutra, and we'll see. Okay, so thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying at Raja Gaha in the Tapoda Park. Now the Venerable Samadhi, one of the monks under the Buddha, as dawn approached, arose and went to the hot springs to bathe. Having bathed, he came out of the hot springs and stood clad in a single garment, drying his limbs. Then a certain Devata. So what's a Devata? Well, we know that Devas have male and female. They're separated into male and female species, just like humans. So Devata means a female goddess. Okay, so a certain Devata, as the night was passing away, lighting up the entire hot springs lake with her effulgent beauty, approached the venerable Samiti and hovering in the air addressed him thus in verse. So like we know about devas, they radiate light, they're very radiant, so she lit up the whole place with her light. And this is what she told Venerable Samiti. She said, having had no spot, monk seeking alms. Having none today, just seeking alms. Why not get your fill, monk, then seek alms, lest your fleeting hour should slip away. Then the Venerable reply says, hour you may say, but I know not the hour. Hidden is my hour and not revealed. Therefore, Self-restraint, I just seek alms, lest my fleeting hour should slip away. So when he says hidden is my hour, but and not revealed, it means I think he's referring to his time of death when he's going to die. Okay. Then the Shideva came down to earth and said to Venerable Samedi, "You are young, Bhikkhu, to have left the world black-haired with the bloom of youth. In your youthful prime, you do not enjoy the pleasures of the senses. Get your fill, Bhikkhu, of human pleasures. Don't reject the present moment to pursue what time will bring." Okay, so this is very interesting. First of all, it seems as if the goddess is telling the monk to be more mindful of the enjoyment that's available to him because he's very young, black hat, in the bloom of youth. So I guess maybe Venerable Samedi is still in his 20s. Definitely before 35. He's a very young man. And her idea of life is to enjoy the present moment. And there are a lot of mindfulness that teaches that, to be more immersed in the sensations of the five skandhas. But Buddhist teachings actually, the Buddha teaches us to do the opposite, because the five skandhas are supposed to be a thief. But that's not the subject for today. I just wanted to point that out. So the goddess tells the monk, he says, "Get your fill, Bhikkhu, of human pleasures. Don't reject the present moment to pursue what time will bring." Okay? He says, don't let time pass you by. Don't waste your time. Okay? Go enjoy yourself. Okay. So what happens next? He says, so the monk replies, says, "I, friend, do not reject the present moment to pursue what time will bring. I reject what time will bring to pursue the present moment." Then he says, "Time's pleasures, our friend, as the Blessed One has said," Blessed One meaning the Buddha, "are fraught with pain, fraught with tribulation, leading to greater danger. This Dharma is here present, out of time, inviting inspection, leading onward to be realized by the wise each for himself." So he refers back to the Dharma. He says that the Buddha has explained that whatever time that we have left is fraught with pain. There's always potential for pain or affliction or suffering, fraught with tribulation, and there's always, because of the past karma they have planted, there's always the potential for danger to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. We're not in control. Okay, we are traveling in life in a vehicle which we do not control the steering wheel, we do not control the accelerator and the brakes, and we do not know when our time is coming up. So it's very interesting to see his perspective against the perspective of the goddess, which I would say the goddess shares the same perspective as most people we know. Most people who do not have a grounding in the Dharma, their perspective is to get the most of what you can from life, to earn the most money, to reduce suffering and affliction as much as possible. If you're lucky enough, you can try to replace you can distract yourself with as many things as you can through your hobbies, through travel, through food, through buying whatever it is that people love to buy, electronics, clothes, handbags, and whatever it is, so that they distract themselves from the realities of life. You don't want to confront what life is. So what she's saying is, "Oh monk, you can practice when you're older. For now, you are still young. There are so many things that you can do. There are so many responsibilities that you can immerse yourself in. So practice can wait." Right? That's how most people think. Right? Even myself. When I was about 29, about 29, I knew I was going to leave home. I knew I was going to be a monk. But my attitude at that time was, but life still has so much to offer me. I'll become a monk when I'm older. Yeah, and it was only So I thought at that time I would become a monk when I was maybe 40 something or 50. And it was only when I was in my early 30s did I say that, okay, that's enough. Whatever it is, I don't think I can stand a mundane life any longer. So that's how most people are, even for people who want to live the home life. But of course, there are exceptions. There are some people who, from a very young age or from the moment they know about the Dharma, their good roots appear and they don't seem to have any obstacles. Yeah. So that's the perception of the Deva, okay, of the goddess, the Devata. But for the monk, how he sees life is very different. His perception is whatever time he has left is very precious because he doesn't know when death will come. So a few weeks ago, we talked about birthdays and how people usually celebrate birthdays. They get very happy, which is okay, perfectly fine. But people don't stop to examine what is it that they're truly celebrating. Are you celebrating that you have managed to remain alive for another year? Are you aware that you are a year closer to dying whenever that may be? So these are the realities of life that people don't really want to know. Maybe because they think that there's no way out, that there's nothing that they can really do, and they just surrender themselves to the stream of life, meaning you just float along with the current, and it never occurs to them, like how the prince, before he became the Buddha, he said, I'm going to try my best to swim against the current to see if I can find a way. Because all the people that I care for, including myself, is pulled along by this current that will bring us to suffering, old age, sickness, and death. So I'm on this river. I know that's where I'm going to end up. At the end of the river, there's usually a waterfall, kind of analogy, metaphor, that you're going to tumble to your death, to a very painful death on the rocks down below. If you don't die, you end up injured for the rest of your life. That's not a happy ending to any existence. So the Buddha, before he became the Buddha, he said, I'm going to fight the stream. I'm going to fight the current and see if I can find a way out. And if I can, then I'll know how to save the people I care for. Okay, so the Buddha was very, very unusual. Okay, so I guess as Buddhists, we can celebrate our birthdays in different ways by being mindful of our parents and being grateful and trying to repay the kindness of our parents. We can be glad if we practice. We can be glad that we didn't live the past year in vain, and that we still have time left to try to fulfill our vows and to use every day wisely. All right. Okay. So let's move on with the sutra. So at this part of the sutra, the goddess is curious and she asks the young monk to explain more. But the young monk says, I friend and fresh, having not long left the world, meaning becoming a monk. I'm not able to explain in detail this Dharma and discipline. But the Blessed One, the Arahant, the fully self-enlightened one, is staying at Rajaga in the Tapoda Park, which means nearby. Says, go to the Blessed One and ask him about the matter, then bear in mind the explanation he gives to you. All right. Then the goddess replies, says, it is not easy for us bhikkhu to approach the Blessed One. He is surrounded by other devas of great power. What other devas of great power? We're going to find out, hopefully today. It says he's surrounded by other devas of great power. If you, bhikkhu, will approach the Blessed One and ask him about the matter, then perhaps we can come to hear the teaching. Very well, friend, Venerable Samadhi replied to her. And he went to the Blessed One, made his obeisance, and sat down to one side. He then told the whole story in identical words to the Buddha. Okay. Then after he told the story to the Buddha, he looked for the Deva, and the Deva by that time had managed to squeeze through all the bodyguards that the Buddha has. The Buddha has a lot of bodyguards guarding him that we can't see. So it's not easy for even a regular god to get close to the Buddha. Okay, I guess it's like, maybe say the president of some country. They're always surrounded by their security to protect him, and not anyone. If you don't have an appointment or you're not someone important, then you're never going to be able to get near. Yeah. Okay. So the Deva goes to the Buddha, and then the Buddha starts to teach the Deva. Okay. So the first teaching the Buddha said was this: it says, those who go by names, who go by concepts, making their abode in names and concepts, failing to discern the naming process, these are subject to the ruin of death. He who has discerned the naming process does not suppose that one who names exists. No such case exists for him in truth, whereby one could say he's this or that. So that's what the Buddha told the goddess. And the Buddha said, if you know what this means, tell me, Devata. And then the goddess replies, says, I do not fully grasp the meaning. It would be well for me, Lord, if your blessedness would explain in full what has been expressed in brief, that I may know its meaning. Okay, so another way of understanding what the Buddha has just tried to teach the Devata. Actually, in the commentary, it says that usually what the Buddha teaches is exactly what what the Buddha teaches is always appropriate. And in this case, it was because of the Deva's lack of understanding of the real world. And I think it was said that the Buddha was trying to show the Deva what the Deva didn't know. That means the limits of the Deva's knowledge. So what the Buddha is trying to say is those who go by names, go by concepts, making their abode in names and concepts, meaning people who mistake the false thinking mind for the real mind. So they don't realize that they are dreaming. But right now, the way we work, we don't realize that it's kind of like the metaphor of dreaming is being used. Someone who's dreaming, they don't know that they're dreaming. They think that they are seeing things. They think that they're interacting with people. They assume everything is real. You try to tell them they're dreaming if you can ever talk to them in their dreams, and they say, no, I'm not dreaming. This is real. So the Buddha says people like that who go through life just assuming everything that comes from their mind is real, failing to discern the naming process, that means what's going on in their minds, the false reality that we are creating, says this is subject to the ruin of death. This is impermanent. Okay, so that's what the Buddha is saying. It says, but for someone who understands, who through meditation is able to calm the mind down so much that they see the mind doing what it's doing. It's kind of like a slow motion camera. Right now, there are a lot of videos. People do all kinds of things, and then they use a slow motion camera to capture what's going on, and then they slow everything down to I'm not sure, but it's hundreds of a frame per second. That means you can see what happens. Normally what you can see is slowed down until you take that 1 second, you can split it up into maybe 500 segments, and you see what happens in 1/500 of a second, and probably slower as well. And it's very interesting. You see everything happens in slow motion. Everything is revealed. So that's how people see their mind when they calm their mind down and they're good in meditation. They see that, oh, these are where thoughts come from. And these thoughts have no basis in nature. And they can see their karmic seeds activating and coming up and being activated by other things. And it's all just like a computer program for them. So the Buddha says for people who has seen the secrets of their own mind and who has conquered it, it says, no such case exists for him in truth, whereby one could say he's this or that. You realize that your thoughts are not you. What you tell yourself is not real. There's no you in the you that people assume that there's a them. Okay? All right. So if doesn't make sense, then you all have to meditate so that it starts making sense. All right. So then the Buddha gives the goddess another teaching. The Buddha says, equal I am, or better, of less degree. All such idle fancies lead to strife. Who's unmoved by all these three conceits, such vain distinctions leaves unmade. If you know what this means, tell me, fairy. So the Buddha calls her a fairy in this translation. Then again, she doesn't understand. She says, I do not fully grasp the meaning. Can you please explain more? So what the Buddha is trying to say here, for someone who still has discrimination, who when you see things, you have, oh, this is good, this is not so good, this is the best, or when you see people, you feel superior or inferior or equal to them. So people with this kind of mindset, which is everyone who's not enlightened, basically, if you don't have any skill in your practice, this is basically everyone. Buddha says all such idle fancies lead to strife. It just leads to fighting. It just leads to to contention, to suffering and affliction. But he says, who's unmoved by all these three conceits? Such vain distinctions leave unmade. For someone like, say, the sixth patriarch, all these classes of being equal or being superior or inferior, they do not occur. To the bodhisattvas, they are free from this kind of discriminatory thinking. To the bodhisattvas, what matters is your potential to become awakened. All they see is your Buddha nature, and all they care about is what can they do to bring you closer to your Buddha nature. Okay, whether they have any affinities with you, whether you're right for a certain teaching. If you're not right, then they wait and so on. Okay. All right. So, and the Buddha gives another teaching. Buddha now says, who labels not and holds no vain conceits, has cut off craving here for name and form, free from bonds and pain with no desires, vainly seeking, none will find that man. Neither gods nor man on earth above, not in heaven, nor in any sphere. If you know what this means, tell me, fairy. Okay, so the Buddha gives another teaching. So this is someone who has gone beyond attachments, gone beyond name and form. That means the way the false mind works. They do not mistake the false mind for the true mind anymore. So the Buddha is saying a person like this, his bonds are cut free. He has no more, nothing can make him attached to this false sense of self anymore. He's free from trouble. He's free from longing. And if you were to find if you were to try to find a self in this person, like the way we normally see ourselves, okay, for example, I see myself as a bhikshu, okay, and I have certain opinions and ideas about who I am. And then if I meet someone and they try to insult me and they say, "Oh, you're good for nothing," you think you can compare yourself to the great monks who you think you're trying to fool, then I get upset. Why? Because of my sense of self. I cannot help it, but I still have a sense of who I am. I identify with that. So the Buddha is saying that for someone who has gone beyond that, if you try to, because they don't have a sense of self, you can't even make them upset. Because if you try to insult them, to them, it's like, who are you trying to insult? The person you're trying to insult doesn't exist. Because I have seen through that, and that's not who I really am. So that's what the Buddha is trying to say. Okay, all right. Then the goddess finally replies. He says, Lord, meaning the Buddha, he says, here's how I understand the detailed meaning of the Blessed One's brief statement. In all the world, every world, you should do no evil with speech, body, or mind. Having abandoned sensual pleasures, mindful, alert, don't consort with suffering and stress, with what doesn't pertain to the goal. So what she shows is that she has a very basic understanding of the Dharma. That means don't do any evil by your speech, by your body, or in thought. And it says in all the world, every world, meaning in all forms of existence, no matter where you go, what time it is, past, present, future, at all times, be mindful and aware and do not create evil. And it says leave desires, and that means to avoid, unnecessary pain. That means afflictions that you create for yourself. So being a deva doesn't mean that you have an automatic understanding of the Dharma. It's just like humans. Okay, it's like comparing humans and animals. Being born a human doesn't mean you have an automatic understanding of the realities of life. Okay, all right. Let me see, what's the time? 9:32. I have another story. Okay, while I'm thinking whether to move on or tell the story, does anyone have any questions for now? Okay, the next slides that I have is about the actual heaven of the four kings. But I think I'll tell this story first before we go there. It's nice to end the section on earthbound gods or goddess and goddesses with a story. Okay, so this story is related to last week's story, in the sense that we are talking about gods that live on earth. And last week's story was a deva that lived in, what was it? Was it a tree? Okay, anyway, this week's story is about a deva that lives in the city. Okay, there's a name for that, which I don't have right now. Anyway, this deva lives in the city and is not a follower of the Dharma. That means doesn't consider himself or herself. Actually, this is a devata as well. Does not consider herself a follower of the Buddha. Okay, and for this particular devata with her family, she has a family. The place that she lived was a gateway of a very big house. Okay, it is said that in ancient times in India, if you were rich and you had a big house, you would have different gates surrounding your house. And this particular rich man is actually the most famous rich man who was a lay disciple of the Buddha. His name is Anathapindika. I'm sure most of you have heard of him. Anathapindika is well known for being the foremost lay Dharma protector for the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And he was very, very rich, but at the same time, his generosity, I think, exceeded his generosity to the triple jewel actually exceeded his wealth. That's how generous he was. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, we'll get there soon. So this particular devata so his house had 7 gates or more. I think it had 7 gates. And this particular goddess lived above the gateway number 4. Okay. So because Anathapindika was such a devoted follower of the Buddha, he would often invite the Buddha or any of the Buddha's disciples to his house to receive alms. And it is customary, if you are a goddess, there are a lot of rules that they have to follow, that whenever the Buddha or any of his monks were to visit a place, you can't stay on a high place. You can't be above the Buddha. There's a rule. You have to come down. Whether you are a follower of the Buddha or not, you have to come down. I think it's because of the Buddha's bodyguards. So every time the Buddha came or one of his disciples came to see Anathapindika, she always had to come down and wait until they had left. Then she could go up. And this really made her upset. She was very, very annoyed. But she also knew who Anathapindika was, and she was afraid to influence him. So what she did was, first she approached Anathapindika's business manager. Yes, he's so rich, he has a business manager. And she approached him the business manager, and told the business manager, why is your boss, just wasting his wealth on feeding ascetics, on begging ascetics. He should guard his wealth and keep his wealth for himself and for his family. And what happened was she was scolded by the business manager himself. So this left her very upset. Then she had another strategy where she went to Anatta Pindika's elder son and tried to influence the elder son to talk to the father to stop providing alms and inviting the Buddha and his disciples back to the house. Again, the same thing happened. The elder son also scolded her, and she went away very upset. So then something happened to Anatta Pindika, which was I think there was a great flood. This is a recorded story in the Jatakas. There was a great flood, and a lot, I think 1/3 of his treasure was washed away. And then something happened. I think a lot of people owe him money, and he didn't collect the money, or he could not collect the money. I'm not clear. The story doesn't say, but he became poor. And so there was one day when the Buddha asked him, he said, "Do you still provide alms?" And Anatta Pindika said, "Yes, but I can only afford to provide not high quality alms." That means instead of providing like maybe fragrant rice, expensive rice, he could only provide a lower quality of rice and not so many dishes anymore. And he explained to the Buddha what happened. So the Devata, the goddess, thinking that now that he was poor, maybe he would listen to her. So she appeared to Anatta Pindika, hovering in the air in all her splendor, dressed in her finest clothes as a goddess, and tried to convince Anatta Pindika to save his money and stop making meal offerings to the Buddha and Sangha. What she did not expect was Anatta Pindika to be so devoted to the Buddha that he responded by expelling her from his home. I didn't know you could actually do that. So basically, he evicted her from her home, which was the fourth gateway to his mansion. So it is said that she had no more home. She became homeless, and she left weeping with her children. And who did she go to see? She went to the chief deva of the city. So apparently the city has a chief god overlooking the city, and explained the whole situation to him and asked him for help for another place to live. And this god of the city scolded her instead and said, "You deserve your retribution because you shouldn't have done that." And so she went away thinking who she could appeal to next. So she went to a higher court. Okay, she went to the heaven of the 4 great kings, and she told her story to the 4 great kings and asked them for help. Same thing, the 4 great kings scolded her because of her wickedness, because the 4 great kings are also disciples of the Buddha. And so she got rejected. And then she appealed to a higher court, like we have Supreme, we have, what do you call it? What is the highest court? You have Supreme Court. Okay, you know what I mean. Okay, in different countries, it's called different things. And then I think when she got rejected, she maybe went to the Court of Appeals. So who did she go to? She went to the heaven of 33, and she went to Chakra, king of the heavens of the 33, or the heaven of the triumph, or otherwise known as the Triumph Trimsha heaven. And so Lord Chakra, then had this plan. Lord Chakra told him, "You know that Anatta Pindika has lost all his wealth, right?" She said, "Yes." Said, "Okay, I agree to help you only if you can restore all his wealth." So she explained to her that there are people who owed him money. So what you have to do is you have to go and convince those people to return the money to Anatta Pindika. Okay. And then Lord Chakra told her, he says that he lost some treasure because of the flood. It's now all buried. And then you have to uncover the treasure for him. And the third one was, he says, there is a lot of treasure in the sea that you have to use your deva power to go collect all the precious stones in the sea, all the treasures of the sea, and give it to Anatta Pindika. Only then will I help you. So that's what she did. And after she had restored all the wealth of Anatta Pindika, it is said that the people who owed Anatta Pindika money, what she did was she appeared in their dreams, sometimes to scare them, sometimes to convince them to return the money. So all of them did. And when she had done it, she appeared before Anatta Pindika, who then brought her to have an audience with the Buddha. And the Buddha, and then she took refuge with the Buddha. And also Anatta Pindika forgave her and probably gave her back her home, which is the fourth gateway to his mansion. Yeah. So that's the story. Okay, now let's move to the heaven of the four kings. All right. Since we have time left. Okay, just as a reminder, we are looking at number 6 to 11. Okay. Actually, no, it's not time for the heaven of the four kings yet. It is, we are just going to look at the 6 desire heavens, an overview of the 6 desire heavens really quickly first. Okay. So in the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha speaks of the lifespans in the heavens, and the heavens that are closest to us, known as the heaven of the four kings, the lifespan is 500 years. And 500 years for them is equivalent to 9 million years for a human. That means you want to live as long as a god in the closest heaven, it's 9 million years. Or basically you could say that a god in the heaven of the four kings, throughout their lifespan, they see the earth evolve for 9 million years. Okay. And then the next heaven up, the lifespan is doubled to 1,000 years, but it's not doubled in terms of human years. It's actually quadrupled to 36 million years. And then correspondingly, it doubles every time in terms of God years. So the heaven of self-restraint is 2,000 years. The heaven of joyous contentment is 4,000 years. The heaven of delight in creating is 8,000 years. And the pleasure derived from others is 16,000 years. Incidentally, that's where Mara lives. Mara is the king of the heaven of pleasure derived from others. His lifespan is 16,000 heaven years, but in terms of human years, it is 9.2 billion years. Yeah, they say that, scientists say that the age of our Earth is 4 billion years. Is that right? So this is double of that. And then I just put down, for comparison's sake, the first dhyana heaven. The first dhyana heaven is the next heaven outside of the desire realm, and the lifespan there is equivalent to 320 billion years. It's very, very long. And the reason for that is to get access to the 6 desire heavens, which is from the four kings to the pleasure derived from others. You get that through good deeds. That's all. You don't need any like kung fu in your meditative practice. All you need to do is just do good, be very respectful of people, have very good thoughts, very good intentions, and you can get into those heavens depending on the blessings that you generate. But the first dhyana heaven, you can only get there if you can enter the first dhyana in your meditation. So it's through skill, it's through concentration, and not through blessings generated by good deeds. Okay. Now let's look at what the Buddha has to say about how people get to, or the description of the various 6 desire heavens. Okay. And this is from the Shurangama Sutra, chapter called Levels of Beings. And the Buddha is explaining to Ananda. It says, Ananda, some people in this world do not seek what is everlasting and cannot yet renounce their love and affection for their spouses. But if their minds do not turn to thoughts of sexual misconduct, they will develop a certain purity and radiance. After their lives have ended, they will ascend to the vicinity of the sun and moon. Such people become gods in the heavens of the four kings. Okay, so these are people who remain faithful to their partners. That's, these are just ordinary people, but they are not unfaithful to their wives or to their husbands. They don't have affairs. They respect the relationship that they are in. Okay. So Shufu says that for one that does not engage in deviant lust, Shufu says one's essence, breath, and spirit will be full and complete. And from that fullness comes a form of light, a virtuous light. And then during one's life, one will glow and radiate with light. When their life ends, they draw near the sun and moon and among those born in the heaven of the four kings. Shufu says that this kind of rebirth actually includes a lot of people. And Shufu says one knows not how many people fit in this category. And that the heaven of the four kings is located halfway up Mount Sumeru. Let me see if Mount Sumeru. Okay, let me go back and show you where Mount Sumeru is. Okay, if you look at the okay, so if you divide the picture up into a bottom half, the bottom half looks like a cake, like a wedding cake. Okay, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of round cake, and then there's that like a ice cream cone that goes up. Okay, the bottom part of that ice cream cone, that's Mount Sumeru. And so Shufu says that the heaven of the four great kings is midway between, it's like halfway up your ice cream cone. Okay, that's when you finish your ice cream, but you haven't reached the chocolate. Some ice cream cones have chocolate right at the bottom of the cone. Yeah, when you have finished your ice cream, but you haven't reached the chocolate, that's where you find the heaven of the four kings. Okay, so let me go back to where we are. Okay, so in this passage of the Shurangama Sutra, when the Buddha says people do not seek what is everlasting, Shufu says that can mean that these people are not seeking for eternal life, but it also can mean that they're not seeking the everlasting true mind. That's what it means. So when they say seek at eternal life, well, they are yogis. In Taoism, yogis what do you call, exists in Taoism, that exists in Indian, old Indian beliefs, where through meditation or through esoteric practices, they try to prolong their life for as long as they can. So that's, Shufu says, that's one meaning. Or people like now who just want to live as long as they can, or they trying to live forever. Recently, there was a report saying that scientists managed to reverse aging in mice, and now they're trying to do the same for humans, that kind of thing. But more profoundly, from a Buddhist perspective, it is that Shufu says they don't seek the everlasting true mind, which is our Buddha nature. Yeah. Okay. What else does Shufu say? Shufu says, so Shufu says when it comes to lust or desire, says even in marriage, such activity should not be excessive. When you practice in accord with Dharma, no matter how much merit and virtue you may have, you must not engage in sexual misconduct. Otherwise, all your hard work will be in vain. When one does not engage in sexual misconduct, one will be pure, and out of the purity comes light. And the light is a natural light of virtue. Okay? All right, so this is the heaven of the four kings. What's above the heaven of the four kings? The heaven of the 33. So, Ron, your question last week about how, the different heavens and I know you didn't ask about how people get there, but you kind of asked about the different heavens. This is the heaven of the 33, and the Buddha said some others have only a small amount of desire for their spouses, but they do not manage to live in complete purity. After their lives have ended, they will ascend beyond the sun and moon to dwell at the summit of Mount Sumeru. Okay, this is where the ice cream is. Okay, the ice cream cone. This is the top. So such people become gods of the heaven of the 33. Okay, let me see, what notes do I have? Okay, so these people have less sexual desire. And Shufu says, why do people have a lot of sexual desire or strong sexual desire? Shufu says it's because of the formidable obstacles that their karma places in their path, which means that the thoughts that you're having on your daily basis, that's your karma. These thoughts arise. Says such obstacles cause people to think of nothing but sex from morning till night. However, it's precisely in the midst of these obstacles that we must wake up and realize the need to reduce their power over us. If we simply accept our karmic obstacles, we will continue to fall and will be reborn as an animal in the future. The stronger our desires, the further we fall. On the other hand, if you want to be reborn in the heavens, just have few desires and be content. All right? So this is a way of understanding how people fall through desires. And if you can catch your thoughts of desire and transform it into wholesome thoughts, either by reciting the Buddha's name or by contemplating anything, the impurity of the body to reduce your desires, then upon death you can ascend, you can go up. All right? Okay. And then the next heaven, the Buddha explains, he says, this is the heaven of self-restraint, or the Suyama heaven. This is heaven number 3. Buddha says, some others will succumb to desire when an occasion arises, but after an indulgence, they give the matter no further thought, so it doesn't stay in their mind. While they are in the human realm, their desire is quiescent more than it is active. After their lives have ended, they abide peacefully, shining with their own radiance in a realm or space that is so far above the sun and moon as to be beyond the reach of sunlight and moonlight. Such people become gods in the heaven of self-restraint. So this is way above the ice cream stage already. So Shufu says that this refers to the activity of married couples. Shufu says, although occasionally they may engage in sexual conduct, these people forget about it when it's gone. It's not something that they think about. They don't think about it afterwards at all. And okay, this is the important part. It also means they spend a lot of time practicing Chan Samadhi. They actually do practice. And that is how they can they can ascend so high that even the light of the sun and the moon do not shine. So what happens is that there's still light there. It's not total darkness, but the light there comes from their bodies. There's no day and night there. It's always light. And Shufu says, do you know how they tell time? They use a lotus flower. When the lotus flower opens, it is daytime, and when the flower closes, they know that it is nighttime. So that's how they mark the passage of time. Yeah, very interesting. Okay, next heaven, this heaven number 4. Okay, the Buddha says, some others are always still, except when they are unable to resist the stimulus of contact. After their lives have ended, the ascent to a refined place that is isolated from the lower heavens and from the human realm. Here they are untouched even by the 3 great disasters that come at the end of an eon. Such people become gods, the heaven of joyous contentment, or the Tushita heaven. So this is the heaven that Maitreya Bodhisattva, which is our next Buddha, is living in right now. So Shufu says that this heaven is divided into an inner and outer court. The outer court is where the so-called common gods dwell, and in the inner court are the gods that are sages, people who have practiced very well in the Dharma. So where is Maitreya Bodhisattva? Well, if you have spiritual abilities and you go to this heaven right now, it is said you will find him, excuse me, you will find Maitreya Bodhisattva in the inner court, and there he is explaining the Dharma. And Shufu actually says he's explaining about the samadhi of mind consciousness only. Yeah. So this heaven is so high up that it is free, that it is safe from the 3 disasters that will engulf and destroy the world at the end of the Kalpa. What are the 3 disasters? There's a disaster of fire, where extreme heat and fire destroys the world or consumes the world. And then comes the disaster of water that overwhelms the world. And finally, the disaster of wind. So Shufu says fire burns through the first dhyana, water drowns the second dhyana, and wind devastates the third dhyana. But because bodhisattvas reside in this Tushita heaven, the 3 disasters cannot reach it. And Tushita means having few desires and being content. Shufu says they simply don't have any greed. Meaning, if you want to get to this heaven, you must ask yourself, do you have any greed at all? Shiva says they're devoid of sexual desire. So Shiva says just have few desires and be very content, and you have a strong chance of getting there. Yeah. What else does Shiva say? Okay, let's go on. Next is heaven number 5. The Buddha says, some others have no desire themselves but will respond to the actions of their spouses. For them, the act itself has no more flavor than wax. After their lives are ended, they ascend still higher to a realm of creativity. Such people become gods in the heaven of delight in creating. Shiva says this is also known as a transformation of bliss heaven. Everything in the environment is transformed. I'm not sure what that means. I have to find out. Shiva says it's an extremely blissful place, unspeakably joyous. That's how the level of happiness is in that place. But it's not the happiness that Shiva says. It says the bliss referred to is not like that of ordinary sexual involvement. It is a natural bliss. It's just a bliss of just being who you are. I'm not sure if it makes sense, but it's a bliss that doesn't come from anything else, but just from within you. If you meditate, you can kind of figure that out here. So, however, it is not an ultimate place of rebirth. It is still within the 6 desire heavens, which means that although it's such a great existence, you still die and you still come back. You still get reborn. And then finally, we have the 6th heaven, the heaven of pleasure derived from what others create. So Buddha says, yet others have no mundane thoughts. Although their actions seem no different than the actions of ordinary people, their minds transcend the acts that they engage in. After their lives are ended, they ascend beyond all the lower heavens, including the heaven of delight in creating. Such people are born in the heaven of pleasure derived from what others create. So in this heaven, also known, sometimes translated as heaven of sovereignty over others' transformations, the inhabitants of this heaven have powers over the creation of others. Shiva says they reach a state where they can go out of their bodies and transform as they please endlessly. And it says everything in the heaven doesn't come from the heaven itself. So what happens is the gods here take delight in the offerings made by beings from other heavens. Okay, so you can imagine for yourself what does that mean. Because it's hard for me to imagine. Basically, people offer them things and that's what they have. So the bliss is vast here and there's no work to be done. So Ron, you asked about, do they work or something? No, in this heaven, there's no work to be done. Shifu says it's extremely comfortable. The bliss is vast and there's, says there aren't any servants in this heaven. People who work for a living will starve there because everything happens naturally and spontaneously. So if you don't have the blessings and you get to the heaven and you try to earn a living, people won't buy anything from you because they get everything they want comes to them naturally and spontaneously. So Shiva says the bliss is extreme. It's a lot better than the human realm, that's for sure. But even though it's such a fine place, the beings there will nevertheless fall one day. Once they use up their heavenly blessings, they will fall back to the human realm or even into the hells. There's nothing fixed about it at all. Okay, there you go. Okay, in terms of sexual conduct in the heavens, okay, so this is what happens. In the human realm, we all know what happens. Okay, in the 6 desire heavens themselves is different. For example, in the heaven of the 4 kings, which is the next heaven and just above us, and in the 2nd heaven, the Triumtrimsha heaven, it is said that desire is carried out through embracing. They conduct sexual affairs the same way people do. Okay, so it's fairly similar to what we do here. In the Suyama heaven, which is the 3rd heaven, they hold hands and they unite in mind, but not physically. Okay, so there's no physical contact apart from holding hands. In the Tushita heaven, all they need is just to smile. There's no physical contact involved at all. They just smile. And then in heaven number 5, the bliss by transformation heaven, they gaze. They look at each other maybe for a short period. Shiva says maybe 3 or 5 minutes, and then they're satisfied. And then in this heaven that we just talked about, in comfort from others, or heaven or pleasure derived from what others create, just a simple glance. You don't even have to hold, you don't have to stare at people, just a glance, just a look is enough to satisfy whatever little desire that's left. Yeah. Okay. I just have a few more slides, then we can end. So the Buddha concludes by saying, Ananda, these 6 kinds of gods have transcended the physical act of mating, but their minds are not free from it. Because of this, they have had to return to these heavens which belong to the realm of desire. So I'm not sure, I'm not 100% sure in my notes just now, the heaven of the 4 great kings and the Triumtrinsha heaven, or the heaven of the 33, about how they fulfill their sexual desires. Is it just by embracing? That means only through touch? Or is it similar to the human realm? I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so don't take my word for it. All right, so next week, what we are going to do is I'll just show you the slide for next week. We are going to talk about the heaven of the 4 great kings. We are going to look at why it's called the heaven of the 4 great kings, if the name itself doesn't give the name away, the game away. We will even look at how the 4 great kings look like. Okay, and I have a great story about the Buddha's alms bowl connected to the 4 great kings. All right. For now, because of the celebrations downstairs, I'm going to have to go and join the Buddha Hall. Does anyone have any questions in the meantime? No questions today? Okay, then let me get the transference slide up. Invite everyone to join me putting our palms together. Okay. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. All become compassionate and wise. Let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. All right, everyone, we'll see you next week as we explore the heaven of the 4 great kings. Okay, Amitabha.